welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day and had a wonderful 3-day weekend. So yes, I have a Chilli video. He put out 2 videos today that, again, he's just putting out the wrong information about 2 things because he's too stupid to actually sit down, read the entire case law, and comprehend what he's reading. It's clear that he does not comprehend anything. Not the Constitution, not the amendments, not case law, not law. He comprehends nothing. Enjoy the video.
If you are pulled over on the side of the road and you see your brother, your cousin, your lover, your best friend, and they have the cops behind them and they're pulled over, whether that be on the freeway or on a back road, you can pull to the side and film that cop. So the reason why me and my group of scholars put Techline versus Danforth in the trifold is because of what the Mississippi Supreme Court Justice wrote in the actual holding of Techline versus Danforth. Techline Incorporated versus Danforth, 1943. Virgil A. Griffith delivered the opinion for the court. This case involves the proper and permissible interpretations of Section 90, Chapter 200, Law 1938, known as the Uniform Highway Traffic Regulation Act. The right to travel means, of course, the right to go from one place to another.
Yeah, we're not even going to listen to his sovereign citizen bullshit because, he's just going to go into that. Anyways, he's reading off of Techline versus Danforth. It's Techline. It's not Techline. He keeps saying Techline. It's Techline. I looked it up. I checked on it. It's Techline. Anyways, his trifold is crap. It's not worth the paper it's printed on or written on. If you know someone or you don't know somebody who is pulled over on the side of the highway or the interstate, you still cannot pull over, stop, get out, and record the police. It's state law. You cannot do that. You can only pull over on the side of the highway or interstate in the case of an emergency or you're being pulled over. You cannot just pull over and stop and just to record the police. Chilli is a dumbass. He has no clue what he's talking about. He doesn't comprehend anything he reads. You can actually read the entire freaking Techline versus Danforth all you want, all day long. It doesn't say that. And what it does say, it only affects Mississippi. So where he's trying to say it affects every state, it doesn't. It only affects Mississippi. Again, Chilli does not know what he's talking about.
Trifold, you definitely want to have my trifold, especially after you hear this, because Techline versus Danforth was written by an absolute legal legend who's going to equate, like I've always said, your right to stop when you feel necessary, and that my necessary is what? I'm a member of the press. My necessary is to stop and film the cops. Now you may not be like me. It might be your cousin, your brother, your best friend, your lover, your sister, whoever it is that is stopped by the police on the highway, and you want to pull behind them and film the interaction to make sure your loved one is safe. Techline versus Danforth. You have the right to stop and film them when you find it necessary. I would be more than willing to go to court and take that Mississippi Supreme Court Justice's argument that we don't have an inherent right to travel if we don't have an inherent right to stop.
Go over that one more time. No, it does not mean you can just pull over and start recording the police. And what it does state, it's only valid in the state of Mississippi, not all of the states. The ruling on one state, unless the actual Supreme Court of the United States holds it, it's not for every state. So no one outside of the state of Mississippi should be talking to the police about Techline versus Danforth anyways. And if you're trying to conduct law on a traffic stop, you're an idiot anyways. That's why you go to court. That's why they tell you have a court date. You can fight this in court. You can fight it all day long on the side of the road all you want. It's not going to get you anywhere, but probably a heart attack because your stress level is going to go high. And we all know Chilli's knee has a stress problem. No one outside of Mississippi cares who the hell Virgil Griffith is. And he's not a legal legend or a court case legend. In Chilli's mind, yes. Somebody, please don't tell Chilli that Santa Claus is not real, because he probably still believes in that as well. But basically, no, you cannot park on the side of the highway or the interstate for any given reason unless it's an emergency, like you blew a tire or your radiator blows or something happens where you have to pull over and stop, call AAA, call mom, call dad, call somebody. Or in Chilli's case, your lover, your sister, your brother, your next door neighbor, your 10th grade teacher, your babysitter from when you were 4 years old. Any one of those people will do.
You want the indestructible one? It's $25. Make sure you go to delete laws and get that trifold. It's only $5. You can print it out yourself. You should know every single Supreme Court law on that piece of paper. You should know it backwards and forward. And naysayers.
Anyone who wants to memorize his trifold back and front, then you're just asking for people to make fun of you and laugh at you because you're an idiot. If you show that crap to a cop, then I think, literally, this is what I think, and I'm going to actually see if my police department will get a kick out of it. But I think that police should be able to ticket anybody who hands them this stupid little trifold for being a dumbass. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to drive if you're that stupid. If you're going to hand them this stupid little trifold that Chilli gives away because he can't sell. He can't sell it. That's why he gives them away. Nobody wants to buy the crappy little thing. Nobody wants to spend the $25 or the $5 even for the printable one. You don't even have to. If you are that desperate to like get Chilli's attention and you really want his trifold, just go through his videos, screenshot them, print it out, fold it, and put it in your car. There you go. Free. You didn't have to bother him because, he has such a busy life of grifting and lying. You didn't have to bother him. You didn't have to pay $5. You didn't have to pay $25. You can laminate it yourself if you want to. We all know that the trifold is not destructible. I could cut that with scissors. But, okay, so if you choose to listen to anything Chilli says, or you believe anything and take any kind of legal advice from him, it's your fault, whatever happens. If you go to jail, if you get a ticket, whatever happens to you, it's your fault because you believed this idiot right here. Notice Chilli needs to use his logo at the end of certain videos because they're not long and he can't put enough content in them to make them 10 minutes long for monetization. So he makes an 8-minute video and then for 2.5 or 2 minutes, it's his logo bouncing all over the place. Come on. You couldn't think of anything more to lie about or any more idiotic things to come out of your mouth in order to put 2 more minutes into your video, or even 1.5 minutes and then 30 seconds of that logo bouncing around. Come on, Chilli. Okay, and next we have another fun little video by the non-scholar expert, Chilli DeCastro. And it's on his favorite subject of all, Terry versus Ohio. Just one more thing he does not seem to comprehend or understand when he reads it.
Terry versus Ohio has been added to our Bill of Rights. And Terry versus Ohio, the holding in Terry is more important than your Bill of Rights. You have a First Amendment right to life. You have a Second Amendment right to bear arms. You have a Fourth Amendment right to be free in your person. You have a Fifth Amendment right not to answer any questions. Terry v. Ohio has replaced all of those amendments. You have a right to life as long as officer safety doesn't get in the way of that right to life. And this is fundamentally important that you understand what I'm saying here. You have a First Amendment right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Correct? Terry v. Ohio says that officer safety is the most important thing that the Supreme Court is going to ensure. That officer safety is the most important thing. In the Supreme Court case of Tennessee versus...
Poor little Chilly. No, Terry versus Ohio has not replaced any of our amendments. And it doesn't have to do with officer safety. It has to do with stopping a crime before it happens. I'm so sorry that it obviously soiled your plans many times of possibly committing a crime and got caught beforehand. Or you were planning to do something, but you think, oh crap, if a cop sees me, now they can stop me before I do it. So obviously it soiled all your future plans. But no, it's not about just officer safety. It's actually about public safety, to be honest. You know, because if they see somebody with a crowbar and gloves and other stuff and they're walking very close to a car or car windows and they're looking inside the cars, they probably would have stopped somebody from stealing your car. Didn't that happen to you recently? Like in Denver or something like that? Oh, wait, no, you left the keys in the car and the door's unlocked and everything. That's right. Okay, so let's use somebody else as an example. Somebody who may have had their car properly secured and locked, keys in the house with them, and the police saw somebody snooping around their car, looking in the window with a crowbar and gloves on, and they stopped them. They just stopped somebody from stealing their car. Not your car. You weren't safe with yours, but somebody else's car who did have their car secure. That's what Terry versus Ohio is about.
In the Supreme Court case of Tennessee versus Garner in the year 1985, the Supreme Court holding of what was constitutional when Edward Eugene Garner was shot in the back of the head as he ran away from a police officer, the holding of the Supreme Court personnel, these people up here, they held that your constitutional right to life ensures that police cannot shoot you in the back of the head as you run away, unless it's in the name of officer safety. That's what the holding says. That's what the holding says of that right to life. And this is fundamentally important that you understand what I'm saying.
It's actually fundamentally important that you never believe a single word that Chilli says.
Important thing. In the Supreme Court case of Tennessee versus Garner in the year 1985, the Supreme Court holding of what was constitutional when Edward Eugene Garner was shot in the back of the head as he ran away from a police officer, the holding of the Supreme Court personnel, these people up here, they held that your constitutional right to life ensures that police cannot shoot you in the back of the head as you run away, unless it's in the name of officer safety. That's what the holding says. That's what the holding says. So essentially, in the Supreme Court case of Tennessee versus Garner in the year 1985, the Supreme Court holding of what was constitutional when Edward Eugene Garner was shot in the back of the head as he ran away from a police officer, the holding of the Supreme Court personnel, these people up here, they held that your constitutional right to life ensures that police cannot shoot you in the back of the head as you run away, unless it's in the name of officer safety. That's what the holding says. That's what the holding says. So essentially, you do not have a First Amendment right to life. Cops can shoot you in the back of the head if it's in the name of officer safety. That's a legal holding in America today.
No, Chilli is wrong. Again, it has nothing to do. It's not just purely due to officer safety. He keeps wanting to say that because his whole narrative is police are bad, officers are bad, rah, 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 hate police. No. And this is where he screws everything up. And this is where he's giving people the wrong information and where he's going to end up getting somebody hurt or killed with his words and his manipulation and his lies. Tennessee versus Garner, yes, says not to use deadly force on a fleeing suspect. However, if you shoot at an officer, they can use force to stop you, not only for their safety, but for the safety and of society, like innocent people in and around the area. As it says, the Supreme Court in Tennessee versus Garner, 471 U.S. 1, 1985, held that the Fourth Amendment prohibited the use of deadly force by police to prevent the escape of a suspect unless the officer has probable cause to believe that the suspect posed a threat of serious physical harm, either to the officer or to others, not just to the officer. Let's say you have a suspect who's holding somebody at gunpoint as a hostage, and they're trying to get away. The officer damn sure can shoot him in the head so that he could save the life of the innocent party that the suspect has a gun pointed to their head. He could be waving the gun at a crowd. If he shoots, yes, you're damn right they can take him down because they're saving other people's lives. I would prefer them to maim the guy, like shoot him in the arm or something. But if they shoot somewhere that doesn't, stop him from shooting, just think about it. A guy is holding a gun and there's a crowd of people and he's waving at them and the cops shoot him in the arm and then he starts shooting multiple rounds and you've lost 5 people in the crowd. Chilly doesn't think logical. He doesn't want people to actually understand these case laws. He doesn't want you to fully understand it because then they'll know that he's full of shit. That is the whole problem here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. You've got people from his fence. Oh my God, you're picking on Chilli because you're so jealous of him. Yeah, it's hard to be jealous of somebody who has no car, no home, no family, no spouse, no children, no life, no education. Literally, he has nothing going for him except for you manipulative people that he can lie to, and you'll all sit there and worship him like a Jim Jones cult. I'm trying to make sure people understand the truth. I know that my subscribers understand it. They can read it, comprehend it. They have a 12th grade education and higher. I'm sorry that Chilli subscribers do not. Because if they did, they would understand that he is lying to them.
In the 1995 case of Wilson versus Arkansas, the Supreme Court, these people up here, they held as constitutional that police do not have the right to no-knock raid your house. This upholds that you have a right to be secure in your person, houses, papers, and effects. The ruling upholds the Fourth Amendment that says you have a right to be secure in your house. And so in Wilson versus Arkansas, the Supreme Court personnel held that you do have that right to be free in your person and to be secure in your home, be secure in your person, houses, papers, and effects. Unless it's in the name of officer safety. If the police fear that they're going to raid your home for some law that the government has created, and the police fear that officer safety could be in jeopardy, well, then they can no-knock raid your home. Then it's reasonable. If it's in the name of officer safety, it's reasonable that they raid your home.
Okay, so here Chilli's going to try and convince you that, again, it's only about officer safety. And, in this case, it is a little bit on officer safety, depending on, the situation. However, the U.S. Supreme Court has stated unequivocally that the Fourth Amendment demands that police officers who enter a dwelling with or without search warrant must knock on the door and announce their identity and purpose before attempting forcible entry. Generally, exceptions to this rule come into play when knocking and announcing would be dangerous or futile, or if it would inhibit the investigation of a crime. In cases where an exception is asserted to justify a no-knock entry, The issue to be decided by a court is whether there were sufficient facts to support the exception. In the case at issue, the City Police of Newport News, Virginia, had received information from an informant that a particular individual, Wooten, with a known history of violence and drug trafficking, was using a specific house to store his drugs. Wooten lived somewhere else, but Grogan's lived in the house where Wooten was alleged to keep his drugs. The informant further stated to the police that Wooten was to be at Grogan's house on a specified night. Obtaining a warrant based on probable cause, a team of officers entered the house on that night without knocking and found Grogan's in the house, but not Wooten. Drugs and drug paraphernalia were found in the house. The trial court ruled that the evidence obtained from the house had to be suppressed because of the officers' violation of the knock and announce rule. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals reversed the trial court in the United States versus Grogan's in 1998, holding that the nature of the drugs as easily disposable and the likelihood that a person known to be violent was present in the house justified the no-knock entry. The section of this report on drug identification summarizes information on the effects and identification of the following drugs. I'm not going to go through the following drugs, but they were Scheduled 3 drugs for treatment of moderate pain and 3 Schedule 4 depressants. So, in other words, Chilly, if they know that the house is riddled with drugs that can be easily disposed of, yes, they do not have to knock and announce that they're entering. They can enter. The same would go for if they know the house is full of automatic weapons, and they know if they knock and announce that they could be literally riddled dead. So they have the right to go in without knocking and announcing. Get it right.
Ohio ruling has removed all of your amended rights. All of your civil liberties, the first 10, and then the Civil Rights Act that are amended rights that we have been wiped away in one ruling called Terry versus Ohio. That officer safety is the most important metric in our judicial system. I just proved it to you. Terry v. Ohio replaces your constitutional rights.
No, Chilly, you didn't prove anything other than you are only using Terry versus Ohio to further blow up your narrative all against police so that you can continue to spread hate towards all police. Every police officer. You fully believe that no police officer is good. And you blame Terry versus Ohio for everything. Terry versus Ohio did not replace any of our rights, whether they're from the Constitution or the civil rights. It didn't take away anything. All it did was make it to where not only officers are safer while they're out chasing suspects, but everybody else around. I mean, you seem to think that when officers go after criminals that they're doing this in this big open field of nothingness and there's no other humans around. Like, where do you live? Because it's clearly not within reality. Seriously, put the pipe down for a while, clear your mind, and come back to reality. Maybe you'll start to understand what you're trying to read, because what you're telling everybody is not what's there.
Rights. In the name of officer safety, they can shoot you in the back of the head. In the name of officer safety, they can no-knock raid your home. You don't have a First Amendment right to life if it's in the name of officer safety. You don't have a Second Amendment right to carry a gun. Anthony Alvarez was running from the police. This man right here, he was running from the police. The cops... In Sitz versus Michigan State Police, you have a Fifth Amendment right not to answer questions to the government. You have a Fifth Amendment right not to answer questions to the government. In Sitz versus Michigan State Police, the unelected body of Supreme Court held that police can funnel you into a pullover, and then they can question you on whether or not you've been drinking or using a chemical. It's the entire war on drugs and the war on alcohol that has ruined our country.
So we don't have to hear him go through his whole spew on DUI checkpoints and his feelings and all that stuff. In most states, not all states have DUI checkpoints as legal, but in the states where they're legal, from time to time, it's a part of their ongoing efforts to catch drunk drivers. I think that's great. Here's generally how it will work. As each car pulls up and stops, the officer asks the driver, has been drinking? The driver says no. As soon as you say no, they're able to tell by the smell of your breath if you've been drinking or not. Okay? At that point, yes, legally they can pull you over to the side and do field sobriety tests. Great. Guess what? They just got a drunk driver off the road. Guess what? Nobody's going to get hit. Nobody's going to die from somebody driving drunk. I think it's great. No accidents, at least from that person. There may be another one that they don't catch. But if the driver says he or she has been drinking or the officer suspects the driver to be under the influence, the stop will likely last at least a bit longer. The officer might ask the driver to take a breathalyzer or do some field sobriety test. And after this further inquiry, if the officer still believes the driver is under the influence, an arrest is likely. Law enforcement, why are they legal in the first place? Well, law enforcement has been using DUI checkpoints for a long time. Naturally, lots of people have challenged the legality of these checkpoints in courts. In order to quell debate among lower courts, the U.S. Supreme Court has addressed the constitutionality of checkpoints on several occasions. Generally, the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution prohibits police from stopping a vehicle without a reasonable basis for suspecting illegal activity. But with DUI checkpoints, police are stopping all vehicles without having any reason to believe anyone in the car has broken the law. So, how are checkpoints legal? The Supreme Court has carved out an exception to the normal rule for certain types of vehicle checkpoints. In a nutshell, the court's reasoning is that the government's interest in having checkpoints sometimes outweighs the inconvenience to drivers. In determining the lawfulness of a checkpoint, courts must look for the specific facts of the situation. But in most cases, courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court, have found DUI checkpoints to be legal. In other words, if you don't want to stop at a DUI checkpoint and go to jail, don't drink before you get in a freaking car. It's that simple. It's just as simple as don't wake up that morning and decide to go rob a bank or steal a car or make drugs and sell them or put them in women's drinks or anything like that. If you don't break the law, you won't go to jail. What are the driver's rights at a DUI checkpoint? Generally, at DUI checkpoints, all drivers must stop and provide certain information, blah, blah, blah. Drivers' constitutional rights are not extinguished just because law enforcement sets up a checkpoint. As Chilli claims, all of our rights go out the window at a DUI checkpoint. He is wrong again. And he's never right anyways, but yeah, let's just move on. Although laws vary by state and the facts of each case are unique, here are some of the basics of legal issues that can come up at a DUI checkpoint. I just went through that. Anyways, Miranda writes at a sobriety checkpoint. Generally, police don't have to give a Miranda advisement. You have the right to remain silent, and so on. To drivers who are just passing through the DUI checkpoint, a Miranda warning is required only if police are conducting a custodial interrogation of a suspect. Courts have generally found that DUI checkpoint stops don't qualify as custodial interrogations, so Miranda doesn't apply. So you can sit there and say, I have the Fifth Amendment to shut up. And as soon as you say, I'm going to go with my Fifth Amendment, they'll be able to smell if you've been drinking or not. It's that simple. So if you've been drinking and you tell them you're going to use your Fifth Amendment, well, great, they just caught you. But if you haven't been drinking and you say, I'm going to use my Fifth Amendment, and they can tell that you have not been drinking, they're just going to wave you through anyways. The best thing to do is as soon as you get pulled into the checkpoint and you roll down the window and they say, have you been drinking? You go, no. They'll know that you haven't been drinking. You can go right on through. Is it an inconvenience that you have to sit in line and wait for a police officer to smell your breath? Absolutely. But it's more of an inconvenience to have to go and identify your loved one's body when a drunk driver hits and kills them. Or it's more of an inconvenience if a drunk driver hits and kills you and your family has to identify your body. Think about that. Chilli doesn't. He doesn't think at all.
To cruel or unusual punishment, the Eighth Amendment of the Constitution. Well, The Terry stop says that they can create this magical space called detainment. A magical space called detainment where you haven't been seized, even though they can put you in handcuffs, lay you on your belly, and torture you. But you haven't been seized. It's not really seized, because seized only means like if you've been arrested and taken downtown to the precinct. That's what the Supreme Court said, that if the police grab you on the street, that's not seizing you. They argue back and forth during the Terry v. Ohio oral arguments. Well, if you grab a man and spin him around, he's certainly been seized. Well, not in the case of being arrested seized, where he's going down to the jailhouse. You could certainly grab a man without seizing him. Sure, I agree with that. Who's saying that? Hugo Black, lifetime member of the KKK. His argument is, what do you mean black people don't have to answer to cops on the street? What do you mean? He says that out loud in the Wren versus States. Wren versus United States is an extension of cops being suspicious of you. Terry v. Ohio says you don't need probable cause anymore. They just have to be suspicious of you. And then the warrant is the cop sees you, he's suspicious of your car, he pulls over your car on a pretextual stop, believing that maybe you were about to do something criminal. You don't have to have even broken a traffic law. He can pretextually stop you based on his suspicion of you, your car. There's now classes.
Yeah, I'm not even going to let him finish talking on this one because he already said his feelings enough. He just goes on and on about his feelings about it. But no, a police officer cannot stop motorists on a whim. There are legal perimeters in place that give police officers specific reasons to pull over a driver. Let's see that again. United States 517 U.S. 806 1996 was a unanimous United States Supreme Court decision that declared that any traffic offense committed by a driver was a legitimate legal basis for a stop. Conviction affirmed United States versus Wren. Held. The temporary detention of a motorist upon probable cause to believe that he has violated the traffic laws does not violate the Fourth Amendment's prohibition against unreasonable seizures, even if a reasonable officer would not have stopped the motorist absent some additional law enforcement objective. Basically, no. Chilli is saying that a cop can just look at your car and assume that something is wrong or assume that you've committed a crime or you're going to, and they can pull you over. That is not what Terry versus. He's dumb. He's trying to, again, tell people the wrong information to, again, continue spreading hate for police officers. Again, I don't think that there's all good cops and no bad cops. There are bad cops. But damn it, I'm not going to let Chilli sit there and convince people that every cop is bad and every cop that pulls them over or detains them because they've done something wrong is able to do it because they just feel like doing it. Because it's not true. That's not what these case laws are saying. None of this is saying what Chilli is saying. He reads it and he goes, oh, I can spin that into my own thing. That's what his stupid little wall poster is. It's all things in his head. If he just got it right, then he would have something going for him. But he doesn't get any of it right. He reads what it is, but then he puts his feelings into it and his opinions. And then that's all it is. It no longer becomes case law or fact. It becomes Chilli opinion and Chilli thought and Chilli feelings. That's it. Minus the thought, actually. He doesn't think. But feelings, that's what it is. His feelings. He doesn't like what it means. He doesn't like what it says. So he's going to portray it as something totally different.
Overturn Terry v. Ohio. That's the end.
Well, Chilli kind of spazzed out there at the end, but technically it overturned Chilli DeCastro. That's what we need to do. We need to overturn Chilli DeCastro because we need to stop all this misinformation, lies, and his reality from people thinking it's the truth because it's not. He's not educating anybody on facts. He's only thinking he's educating people on his feelings. And that's all it is, unfortunately. And it's disgusting. The way he lies about everything he says, the way he alters videos, alters photos, alters voicemails and phone calls. He alters the truth as well. And unless you're living within his reality, none of it makes sense in the world. With that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I will see you next time. Be safe. Take care. I love each and every one of you.